I'm super excited to be here with the fabulous Carrie Crowley, actor, here on my left, and Jim Nolan, famous writer, director, and playwright. It's wonderful to be here to talk about your new play, Castel Gandolfo. Have I pronounced it correctly?
You said it right.
Yes, yes.
There'll be a prize for that.
Brilliant. Before we talk about the play, first of all, I would like to say an amazing congratulations to you, Carrie, for your part in the Oscar-nominated film on Colleen Kuhn. Wow, it was such a beautiful film.
It was. And even I can say that sometimes we distance ourselves from things and say, yeah, it was all right. It was very beautiful. And it is one of the things I will be proud of till the day I die. If I never make another film, I can die happy.
Well, I have to say it was one of my most favourite films I've ever watched. It was beautiful, and you were stunning in it. Fabulous. Brilliant. And Waterford people are very, very proud of you. So I'd like to go in and ask you, Carrie, what's the difference in acting on stage in your own community in Waterford? How does it feel compared to actually acting in a film?
The two are completely different anyway. Yes, you're investigating a character. You're hoping to represent that character properly, to do them justice for an audience, be it a theatre audience or a film audience. In film, it can be done, and if there are things the director doesn't like, you go back and you do it again and again and again. And as the actor, you're never quite sure which bit is going to land on screen. And sometimes you see the choices made in the editing room and you go, that other take was much better.
Okay.
Actors do that. We meet together and we say, I thought they'd have used the one we were all really happy with. But we would have been really happy with a take as actors. Whereas the director has to consider lighting, sound, the quality of the sound. It has to match the next kind of coloration in scenes and things. So there's so many things that need to be observed. In theatre, it's live, and there is something about that is gorgeous. And I shouldn't say this in front of Jim. I love sometimes when something goes slightly wrong and you play with it. You play with what goes wrong instead of going, oh no.
You improvise.
Yeah, but it brings it into a really gorgeous kind of zany place. But you're running on speed together to make it come back to the right place. I hope it doesn't happen in this, but it's gorgeous. And the reaction from an audience, it's visceral. It's just the energy in a room. You can never replicate that, ever.
Very, very special indeed. Jim, what was your inspiration and what's behind the name?
Behind the name, Castel Gandolfo. I got it right as well. The very first person I mentioned, they said, what's the name of your new play? And I told them, and they tried to repeat it, and they weren't. And I should have changed the title then, but anyway, this is the one we have. The character that Carrie will tell you a little bit about, that Carrie plays, is a sort of hybrid. She's Italian, American, Irish. Her mother was Italian and father Irish, and Carrie's character, Dolly, was born in New York and ended up in strange circumstances back in Waterford. Eventually inherited the house she came back to live in as a young woman and called it, even though it's a very decayed, run-down terraced house up the top of the town, called it Castel Gandolfo. And the house is almost like a character in the play. Dolly's character hasn't lived there for years. She comes back. There's a funeral pending and a family gathering, and practically all the chickens that could ever come home to roost and all the ghosts that were up in the rafters for years are coming down. It's
and they're
essentially
not all happy ghosts. They're not all happy ghosts.
No. They all gather on the same day. It's really, I suppose, at the heart of the play, it's about a sort of a moral wound that's historical in the family. Things went wrong a long time ago, and the family is fractured. And in some ways, through the evening, those wounds they come to the surface, and there's an attempt at some kind of healing. So in some ways, I'd love to say it's a frothy comedy set in the Vatican, which is, where Castel Gandolfo was the Pope's summer residence.
Yes.
And on my bright days, I go, I wish I'd written a play with a frothy comedy set in the Vatican, but I didn't. This is there's lots of light in this, and maybe Carrie could talk a little about it. There's a few laughs in it, but it's a dark play. somebody, was it Leo Tolstoy said, all happy families, I can't remember the quote, that basically the tenor, the thesis was that happy families are boring and unhappy families have great stories. And I think there's some truth in that. So it's a family saga. There you go.
Which
something else.
I think which many of us in Ireland have somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit more about it without giving it all away?
Well,
Harry?
they are very dysfunctional. There are many secrets that they all know them, but they never speak about them. And at this kind of point in time, when they're gathered for the funeral of the patriarch, they start to leak out. They start to ooze all the different things that we did not speak about as a family, kind of ooze to the surface, and then they have to be dealt with collectively. How's that going to go down? How are we going to be able to do that together as a fractured family? I find it fascinating. It's not an easy play in that it's, as Jim says, it's not fun and frolics. You're not doing a soft shoe shuffle to the side of the stage. And
you have a bit of music, though. There's a Beatles riff in it, isn't there?
There is. See, this is the thing, because if I am to say it's quite dark, because it is quite dark, but it's also, through Jim Nolan, very funny in places. There are laughs. And when we're reading it in the rehearsal room, we sometimes all just laugh spontaneously at something that is really funny.
And isn't this a beautiful theatre to showcase this play?
Yeah, this has been my home, Regina. I've spent more time in this building and in this hall than I have in any of the homes I've lived in over the years. It is my home, and it's been a joy and a privilege to have worked here for so long and to still be here doing new plays. And it's a particular thing, if you don't mind me saying, in front of her ladyship over there, to have Carrie, not just in my play, which is absolutely a privilege, but to have her back in her own place, doing a new play with us. We're only 3 days into it, but it's been a real joy. We're working really hard. The actors are doing terrific work with the editing the script. But just on a personal level, I've known Carrie since we started out here back in the 80s. But we haven't really worked together for years and years and years. And I'm thrilled she's playing this part. It's a tricky role. It's a great part, and it takes big acting. And
no better lady for it. No better Colleen, should we say?
Well, can I just say, I'm delighted to be doing it. And when it came in day one, I just read it and went, yes, I'm in. And my agent was really funny. She said, it won't be like it. This isn't going to be a money project. I don't give a hoot. I'm in. I am so in. And one of the reasons was that it's a really impactful play. You can't read it and not be affected by it. But also, it was Jim. It was local. It was home.
Waterford.
And there's something gorgeous about that. Yeah.
Can I ask you, what was your inspiration for the play before we wrap up and just talk about how people can book the tickets?
Yeah. The writers, I think, are like magpies. You kind of steal from everywhere, you know. So, and the characters in the play are composites of lots of different people and aspects of my life and aspects of the lives of other people. And I can't really say any more than that. It's a fictional play. The story is all mine, but the world of it is, you know, it's difficult to say any more about it except come and see it.
Come and book your tickets.
Yeah,
and the last thing is, you have a book coming out. You've written a book about the play. You'll be launching that in October, as I understand.
Yeah.
So more to come on that.
At the book centre, there's a launch of the book on the 11th of October. It's actually a publication, the published version of the play.
Amazing.
By their nature, they don't sell terribly much, but in terms of future productions and to have a record of this one, it's really important to have them between covers, you know.
And they're gorgeous. They're collector's items. Yeah. I always think if you
published
get
by Gallery Press, and they are beautiful books.
Yeah. Well, it's a real privilege to sit with you, Jim and
Jim.
Carrie. Years ago, I was involved with you
That's
and Red Kettle Theatre Company, so I'm passionate about the theatre, and we're so privileged in Waterford to have such a gifted playwright like yourself, Jim.
Thank you.
And totally, and for anyone who wants a wonderful night's experience, I would say you'd need to hurry up and book, because You can see the theatre is quite intimate. There isn't a huge amount of tickets. It's going to run from the 3rd to the 19th of October. We're here in Garter Lane. We'll put up a link. You better book quick or else you'll miss out. And Garth, mila
Thank you
mac.
so much.